Carl. How are you? Nice to see you.
Hello, nice to see you.
Hello, Ann. Nice
Hi,
to meet you.
Ann. How are you?
Let's have a seat. Welcome to the show. How's it feel to write a book with your wife?
It's a pleasure.
Oh, that's good.
We've done it before, though.
Uh-huh. Great. Well,
Not on this subject, obviously.
Not on the subject, that's true.
search for who we are. We've been searching for a long time about that, haven't we?
Yeah, every human culture has some story about who we are and how we got here, usually in myth, superstition, folklore, stories. But in the last few centuries, we're able to use science to actually make some progress in really understanding the answer to that.
So what is science's answer to that question? Where did we come from?
Well, through the evolutionary process. Clearly, we and the other primates, the chimps, for example, are descended from a common ancestor. Primates, before that mammals, before that amphibians, before that fish, and you are, before you know it, way back a few billion years ago, the origin of life happened about 4 billion years ago.
But what was the origin exactly?
Do you agree with the Big Bang theory?
Now, Big Bang has to do with the origin of the universe.
So,
and here we have a sort of narrower focus. The book begins with the origin of the Earth. And the origin of life we know a great deal about, but the focus of this book has to do with why we are the way we are. Why do we have the predispositions and other characteristics that we do? And it's, you know, gets directly into issues like politics, sexism, ethnocentrism, racism, all of which we think can be understood in terms of our evolutionary origins.
So we have that much in common with the chimps?
We have a tremendous amount in common with chimps, much more. Not just the obvious things, the negative things, but also the very positive things. For instance, other primates have ethics. Some of them ethics that would put us to shame, actually. I'm thinking particularly of the macaques, who, in an experiment done a little while ago, were given the opportunity of shocking electrically other macaques in exchange for food. And routinely, 60% of these macaques would rather go hungry, rather starve to death, than shock a fellow macaque. And even more amazing is the ones who'd had this horrible, shocking experience were less likely to do that than the ones who had. I mean, this is a kind of, they'd never squirmed through a civics lesson. No one had ever given them commandments on how to behave, and yet...
Innately
they did that, yeah.
So the difference between man and the chimps would be his ability to reason?
I think
they
chimps
can
have that.
reason?
I think they can reason.
They have that. Well, then what
Right.
is the difference?
What about the soul? We hear so much about the fact that human beings have a soul and
Well,
What a good
conscience.
question. Good question.
I'd like to examine it. I mean, we say we have a soul, but if we ask what is it that we're talking about, it's not the least bit clear that other animals don't have it. And how would it happen, since we're so closely related to, say, the chimps? 99.6% of our active genes are the same. How would it be that we would have a soul and they wouldn't? Whatever it is, nobody's been able to measure it. It may be sheer fantasy, but whatever it is, we share it with the chimps.
And it's interesting that all through Western civilization, every philosopher has said, whereas man is the only, and they always said man, they never said humanity or men and women, man is the only one who has this or that, who has religion or dry cleaning or, but in fact, all of those divisions, maybe except dry cleaning, haven't stood up.
So do you believe science and religion are compatible?
It depends. Bureaucratic religions which are stuck in, let's say, the 6th century BC, you know, the science of the 6th century BC, like the book of Genesis, which was compiled in the 6th century BC, of course they're not going to be up to date in science. We've learned quite a bit in the intervening 2,600 years. So if you talk about the Earth being only a few thousand years old, or the Earth being flat, or special creation, all of which are ideas in Genesis, that's clearly inconsistent. But if you're talking about ethical prescripts, if you're talking about poetry and great writing, then religion has a lot to offer.
Carl and Ann, you know, we've had a problem with this show because we've run over in certain segments. Do you mind if you wait here? We're going to sign off, say goodbye, then we'll come back and we'll tape another segment and we'll air it later this week.
Oh,
Can we
we'd
do
love
that?
that.
I know we just barely scratched the surface.